Okay, welcome everyone to this UGPN webinar. So if you don't know what the UGPN is, so this is University Global Partnership Network. So the University of Surrey, University of São Paulo, and the North Carolina State University is part of this network, and they funded the project, which is called UGPN NBS. I will introduce that very quickly. And that's between these three universities. So as part of this, the project, we were running the series of webinars, and mostly these webinars were done by the researchers and the collaborators who were in the project and working in the area of blue infrastructure in the context of, to make the cities sort of, sustainable. So last webinar we had in April, and you could see there were two fantastic speakers, both young researchers, early career researchers, I must say. And the recording of these, these webinars are available on our YouTube channel. So we'll post you the link. So feel free to kind of, have a look and share with your colleagues if they're interested in. So just to say that, next slide, please. So just to say that this this project, which is called UGPN NBS, which is Prescription of Nature-Based Solutions to Cities. So that's led by the Global Center for Green Area Research at the University of Surrey. And I have a pleasure of giving the leadership to it. It includes all around 45 members from the University of Surrey, São Paulo, North Carolina State University, and beyond, including from Brazil, UK, China, and Australia. So the focus of this, the project has been to advance the nature-based solutions, the practices, especially for improving the air quality and more broadly, mitigating the environmental challenges. And having the sharing the best practices, because there is quite a lot going on in different part of the world, and learning from each other is one of the sort of goals for this project. So so this project, as part of the project, we have conducted the several activities, including the workshops and a massive review actually, which has been submitted recently. So so today we got two of our early career researchers, and they will be talking about some of the work they've been doing as part of the project, and more widely, connecting to the work they've been doing, as part of their, their PhDs and the postdoctoral research, linking with the different projects, like the Green Cities, which is funded from the NERC. So we got two speakers today. So the first one is Leticia Figueiredo Candido. Sorry if I didn't pronounce it properly. And she comes from the University of São Paulo. She spent some time here at the University of Surrey and has done some fantastic work. So she will be talking about it. And the second speaker today is Dr. Jeetendra Sahani. So he's a research fellow at the Global Center for Green Area Research at the University of Surrey. So he'll be talking about some of the work we have done in the UK as well as in Brazil. So without any further ado, I would like to invite our first speaker, which is Leticia. So Leticia is a biologist and has studied plant ecology since her bachelor's degree. Currently, she's a PhD candidate at the São Paulo Environment Research Institute at the program of Plant Biodiversity and Environment, a researcher at Functional Forest Group. She researches about urban trees, ecosystem services, urban park, green infrastructure, and citizen science. So very exciting work. So over to you, Leticia. Looking forward to hearing from you. Just a note, actually, to the audience. We will have our two speakers. They will be talking around 20 minutes each, and they will go one after another. And we'll take the question and answer in the end. So may I request you to use the Q&A box, which you might see on your screen, And please write your name and the university with your question, so I can then take those questions to our speakers today. So, yeah, Leticia, over to you.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for the presentation, Prashant. I'm excited to present some of my work for you. I just share my screen. Can you see it well?
Yep.
Yes. Okay, thank you. So, hello everyone. Thank you for your presence. I am Leticia. I am a PhD candidate, as Prashant said, in Environmental Research Institute of São Paulo. And it's important to say that this project is also part of a bigger project called Functional Forest that investigates ecosystem service in different parts in the city of São Paulo, and also the climate influence. So I'm presenting part of my PhD work, and this topic, the topic today is the climate influence on native tree growth in two contrasting urban parks of São Paulo, Brazil. So we know that from the past years of the revolution, the industrial revolution, the cities grow widely, and this growth in the cities leads to more population going to the cities to live, and the reasons that people need to work and need to want to look for better resources, and this growth in the cities leads to a change in the use of the soil. So before we had nature, and then we changed it for construction. That's material that has less permeability and high heat retention. And the change in the environment leads to environmental problems. And one environmental problem, for example, that we can highlight is the heat islands that's consistent and more heated accumulated in the center of the city compared with the surroundings. And because the city's growth and has all the changes, also makes cities more vulnerable to the consequences of climate change. So in the past years, we can see this data is from 2023, that the world sees record in heat waves, and this is a pattern globally. And besides, so heat islands, heat waves, we also have the infrastructure problems that we can see, like floods, and that's environment problem that can lead to high risk of exposure, high mortality vulnerability, and also high economic vulnerability. And also we had, together with this, with more people living in the cities, we have also air pollution. So this a few examples of environmental challenge that we face in the cities. And when we talk about this environmental challenge, we can also talk that they have impacts in the human health. So when we are planning cities, we need to consider that we're planning for human health. But nowadays, we are facing how to solve these problems, and very aligned term for us is the nature-based solutions, that are solutions inspired and combined by nature, so we can highlight green infrastructure and blue infrastructure. And these solutions are mainly to respond multiple challenges, as these environmental problems that I said, and also pursues to bring benefits for human well-being. And when we talk about green infrastructure, we have a key point that are the plants. So we can have urban parks, urban forests, green walls, for example, rain gardens. And this, the answer to this environmental challenge by plants is mainly due to the ecosystem service that this plant provides. And today we're going to speak about trees. So trees can contribute with rainfall interception, mitigating the floods, air purification, mitigating the air pollution, shade and cooling, mitigating some consequences of the heat, besides the aesthetics and the cultural aspect that trees have that also bring cultural service for the cities. But when we bring trees for the cities, they are really good because of the ecosystem service they provide, but they also come with some challenges. So trees can also cause some disturbance to the city as tree falls or damage to the infrastructure that can also be damaged to the, can happen accidents and bring them to the people. And when we talk about to plan though green infrastructure for answer these multiple challenges in one city, we need to consider to maximize ecosystem service, minimize this service, and also these plants and trees that we are speaking today is important to be resilient, because beside they change the environment, but the environment also affects the environment are already changing and also affects these species. So today we will focus more in the resilience pillar for plant green infrastructure and focus on trees. So this works is mainly about São Paulo. And here we can just to exemplify that São Paulo is a mega city that more than 10 million people lives here in the metropolitan region. And we suffer with all of these environmental problems that I mentioned. So just to exemplify here, we have a stamp about the urban city island in the metropolitan region. And you can see that here is the São Paulo city, and most part of them are affected by this. So the city suffers with that, and at the same time, we don't have that much knowledge about the resilience of these species. And also we have in the literature that high biodiversity can confer more higher resilience because of the different features of this biodiversity that can cover different impacts from the climate. And also we are in a hotspot, in a region that's a hotspot of biodiversity that has a very good potential for confer this resilience. So today we did this work to evaluate some impact of the climate in some native trees in this city. So how we did that? We monitored the growth and the water deficit of 7 species native from Atlantic rainforest during 2 years in different park structures. So we started monitoring in August 2021, and we finished in August 2023. Oh, sorry, July 2023. And the monitor was made mostly with the dendrometer. That's this equipment that have a logger and a system here that measures the increments, the millimeters of increments in the trunk. These species were selected, considered the most relevant species for each park. And also we select species with different tolerance. So some have more shadow tolerance, or others are more shadow intolerant. We also monitor phenology, that are the reproductive phase of the plant, but also the leaf phase from the plant. So when the leaves are mature, or in the sprout, or when happens the fall, to have a more characterization for the species, because each species has a different pattern, and the leaves influence directly in the growth. We also had some data from climate stations surrounding. So this climate station, we use the data of temperature, relative humidity, and precipitation. And we analyze this data using some R factors as random analyst and H-Minsk to do some correlations. So the work was made in our urban park, that's the Ibirapuera Park. I believe you also speak about this park. And in our urban forest, that's Park Fontes do Ipiranga. So the urban park is open to the public, has a less dense vegetation, and we can select some trees here, and it's is smaller than the urban forest. And the urban forest is a closed forest, so no people, and is an urban forest patch, so doesn't have urban intervention here, but the urban park was planned with selected species. And to visualize the São Paulo city, here is the urban park, and here is the urban forest. Only to exemplify how is the parks. So the urban park, we can see that species are more spaced and has more access to light, against the urban forest that have a very dense population of trees. Now talking a bit more of our monitoring. So the knowledge was mainly to characterize the species. So these are the species we selected. For the urban park, we have the Alcornia, the Centrolobium, the Eugenia, and for the urban forest, the Cupania, the Cryptocaria, and the Eugenia pruinosa. But also, we select one species that's common in both parks, that's Cedrela. And this we select in 3 conditions. So the dense part, the most dense part in the urban forest, in a dense area in the urban park, and an isolated area in the urban park also. So for phenology, we choose to monitor mature leaves, sprouts, and senescence. And we can see that most of the species has some mature leaves during all the year, but mainly Cedrela and Centrolobium has some months that they don't have any leaves on the trunk, on the crown. Some species we were able to visualize the sprout, but for other species, this process is too fast. So with a monthly observation, we cannot captate. And we also have trees that have lost part of the leaves during all the year, and some people that have no leaves in some part of the leaf, how we can see immature leaves. But it's important to highlight that one phenophase is not excluded for the other, so both phenophases can be together at the same time. When regards to climate, we can observe in precipitation that we have a very demarcated raining season that starts around October and go until March. And we can see this for both years, October to March. Here, the second year, we had extreme precipitation events on the state of São Paulo. And we have a very highlighted dry season here. And when we monitor the temperatures and relative humidity, we decide to calculate the VPD that consider both measurements and can give us more information about the transpiration of the trees, because VPD is the vapor pressure deficit, so it's the amount of water vapor in the air against the saturation of this point. So more high the VPD, more evapotranspiration, and more high the stress of the plant. And now about our growth results, we can first we have the urban park and second the urban forest, and we can see in the growth we change the increment for basal area increment to be able to compare the species, and we can see that different species have different patterns of growth. Some of them has a seasonality, another of them have a different growth rate around all the year, and also they answered differently to tree water deficit, but with some seasonality that we can see in the drought months, the tree water deficit was bigger, and we can see the same pattern for the urban forest and different patterns of growth. But mostly when we see that, we can already see that the urban park, some species grow more. And just to explain, the tree water deficit was measured by the dendrometer because the dendrometer has high and low frequency, that the measurement. And when we evaluate this, we can separate what's growth and what's tree water deficit. And also regarding now the Cedrela species that have 3 different conditions, we can see that the isolated species grows more, and we have almost similar, we have a seasonality for this species too, but also this species has more tree water deficit. And this deficit is more for the species in the urban park. And so we think that because this urban park has more space, so species compete less and has more access to light. And when we compare all the species from the increment, so the growth and the tree water deficit, we can see that the growth was higher in the urban park and the tree water deficit also in the urban park, so the Ibirapuera, and less in the urban forest. So when you see only the data from the dendrometer, we can see that maybe the urban park is suffering more stress because of the tree water deficit than the urban forest. But when you correlate the climate, and here we did the correlation, the climate, the growth, and the growth of our species, and also the next slide is the correlation with the tree water deficit, and we did between the parks. So when you correlate the precipitation and the VPG with the growth of the species, we can see that all the species have the same pattern. So here, when we have the star is significant, the correlation, as more blue is more strong the correlation and more positive, and red less positive the correlation, and also bigger the size of the bubble was bigger the correlation. So for precipitation, we said that all the species, even in species of different parks and different growth patterns, answer similar to the precipitation. So as far we have more water, we have more growth. And is the opposite for VPG, that we have more vapor pressure deficit, we have more tree water deficit. And when you correlate the growth, we can see that's very strong, the correlation. So trees are answers similar to this pattern. And when we see the tree water deficit correlation with the climate, we can see the opposite, and it's very significant too. So as high the precipitation, less the growth, and the opposite for VPG. So more VPG, more tree water deficit. And here we can see that between the species is even higher the relation. So they are suffering the same stress, different species from different green infrastructure areas. And when we correlate the climate and the urban park, the different parks, we can see that the pattern maintains. So if I have a higher precipitation, I have more growth, I have less stress, and with VPG is the same, and the growth is answering the same. And also for TWT. So concluding this work, we can see that species diversity and different urban forest structures answer similar to climate conditions on city. And that's worrying because we had this data in literature that implies that higher biodiversity confer more resilience. So here we're seeing that all the species are susceptible to the same climate influence. So if we have one extreme heat event, for example, all the species would be susceptible to that. So we can have some sites that we can monitor for longer times and during climate extreme events for understand as higher is this resilience from the trees, but also we can start to think that we need to think about more about other species, not only these species that were evaluated, but also species from other biomes or even exotic species that answers well for the and provide ecosystem service for the cities, and they are not invasive species. So maybe we can bring this to discussion to understand how to choose better species to plan green infrastructures that are resilient to the urban changes and urban challenges. And that's it. And we can see if you have questions in the QA session. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Leticia, for a very interesting presentation. So if you have any question for Leticia, please leave them using the Q&A chat box. Write your name and address. So I'm going to invite now to our second speaker today, Jeetendra Sahani. So he's a researcher with a PhD in civil and environment engineering, specializing in climate risk assessment, extreme weather impacts, and nature-based solutions. With background of MSc Environmental Science and BSc Biochemistry, his expertise includes statistical modeling, GIS vulnerability mapping, and environmental health exposure assessment. So currently, he's a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Surrey's Global Center for Clean Air Research, studying citizen science and sustainable urban environments. So without any further ado, I'm going to pass on to Jeetendra for his presentation.
Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to present evaluation of urban green-blue infrastructure. So the goal of this presentation, next slide, please. The goal of this presentation is to show how urban greening, which includes green-blue infrastructure, mitigates urban heat. We will be seeing how this local cooling can give rise to global resilience in terms of urban cooling, and we will evaluate nature-based solution for sustainable cities. Next slide, please. As Leticia has also mentioned, and we all know, everywhere all the humans will try to go and live in cities, which makes cities more kind of hotter than other rural areas. The reason being, cities or the human dwellers are made of with concrete and lots of traffic around. That makes lack of greenery. So this kind of effect, which is like higher temperature or more heating in urban region as compared to rural, is called urban heat island effect. And the situation gets even worse in tropical cities. For example, today we are talking about São Paulo city in Brazil. Why is it that? Because in tropical cities, first of all year round, the temperature remains high and humid, and in the face of climate change and with high level of traffic pollution, so two level of risk apart from many others are humans are facing. So one is climate change risk and the pollution risk, and on the top of it, urban heat as a challenge. Next slide, please. So now what we can do, of course, there are many artificial solutions which people always engineering, they are helping to reduce the temperature, for example, like coolers or fans. But how we can use nature to solve the problem of urban heating? So nature includes our trees. Here in the right picture, you can see green wall on a building and a lake and a small pocket park. So nature-based solution basically comprised of green and blue infrastructure. And sometimes when you include gray infrastructures means something artificial. And when you include gray and blue within gray, then it's called GPGI, green, blue, gray infrastructure. And all these things together are called nature-based solutions. And today I'm talking about urban heating, apart from many other environmental challenges. So how nature-based solution actually help us in cooling is, first of all, they provide shade, trees provide shade, and evaporation of water from the surface of the lake water, and air filtration. These are the mechanisms which these nature-based solution help, and in the result we get cooling and clean air. These are the main results, and apart from other co-benefit which Leticia also mentioned, as the mental health, well-being, or biodiversity, ecological benefits, there's several other benefits. But in today's presentation we are focusing on urban heating mitigation. Next slide please. So these benefit, urban cooling benefit of nature-based solution, I'm going to show you with the help of two case studies. First one is in our temperate climate Guildford, where University of Surrey is located, and my research was based on it. Second one, as today's focus of presentation is Brazil, so second case study is from Sao Paulo, Brazil. So in first case study in Guildford, UK, this research was part of operandum during my PhD. So in 2021 to 2022, we gathered temperature data. So the aim of this study was to actually compare the cooling efficiency of different types of nature-based solutions. So here I considered two types of green infrastructure, which is woodland and a grassland, and blue infrastructure, which is a water body, and compared it with a built infrastructure, which is a town center in Guildford City. So in this figure, you can see the orange path is actually the path where I took a e-bike, so that the bike goes from different sorts of nature-based solutions. So it passes from woodland area and water body area, grassland area, and ends up in, like, again, a built up area. So it passes across different types of nature-based solutions, and there are sensors located on these nature-based solutions which are monitoring temperature 24/7 all the time. Next slide, please. So the result from this exercise was, as you can see, the picture shows right the path of the bike, where it is more red means more hot, light red, pinkish white is cooler. So we can very much observe that as we go away from the nature-based solution, the temperature increases, and as we go closer to the nature-based solution, the temperature reduces. And what is the rate, or what is the amount of cooling we get, is that up to 2 to 3 degrees daily maximum temperature at MBS locations were lower than the built up area. And comparing all three types of nature-based solution, woodland showed the maximum temperature reduction. So, and these NBS were the most efficient during the heat wave times and also during the midday. So that means nature-based solutions are really performing well when we really need them. That is midday and heat wave time. And the area where green, blue, NBS were together, because I have put these sensors in individual nature-based solution site, but from the path of the cycling, we got to know that the areas where we have blue and green together, it showed more cooling. So combining two types of or nature-based solutions actually helps more than individual one. Next slide, please. So what we take as a summary from this study is, first one is woodland cooled the best among the three NBS considered, up to 6 degrees in during heat wave time. And water body, when we talk about individual NBS, water body had the widest cooling. That means in terms of area, it was cooling up to more spatial extent. And when we combine different NBS as green and blue infrastructure, then it outperform as compared to any single type of NBS. So combining is the key. Next slide, please. So then after 2022, we extended the work of this monitoring by incorporating two more nature-based solution, which is, first one is green wall. My colleague Sohila extended this work. He put sensors in, one is green wall in University of Surrey. Second one is pocket park. So now we have 4 green NBS, woodland, park, pocket park, green wall, and a park, and 2 blue, which is water body and a riverway, which is kind of a mix, and compared with urban. So the goal of this study was again to compare and assess the micro cooling efficiency of different types of GPGI. Um, and the temperature and the sensors are monitoring temperature and relative humidity since 2021 until now. Next slide, please. Um, and to also go into deep on one type of NBS, which is park. So what GCARE or Sohila Khali is doing is taking monitoring of temperature and relative humidity among other parameters away from the urban areas. So in this picture, please press next. In this picture, if you see, we monitored the temperature and other parameters, for example, air pollution parameter and noise from urban areas towards the park to see the effect of a park in terms of cooling and other benefits, air quality and sound mitigation, how it varies in urban area and in an urban park. So we did monitoring in July 2023 for 5 to 10 days, 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, and evening time period. Next slide, please. These are the parameters which we monitored using the equipment: black carbon, carbon monoxide, different types of particulate matter, noise, air temperature, globe temperature, relative humidity, wind speed. Next slide, please. So apart from other parameters which we are still analyzing, let's talk about the temperature, because here we are presenting urban cooling one. So the results were quite consistent as the past one, that green blue locations were up to 6 degrees, that is 20% cooler than the built up areas, and mean cooling efficiency was in the order of where the woodland was the most cool, and then mixed where green and blue infrastructure were together, then water body, grassland, pocket park, and green wall. And GPGI performed the best, as I said earlier, during the need in summer and midday and during heat waves. Next slide, please. This slide also shows like when we plotted daily temperature, so then we see the temperature threshold 28 degrees is breached several times in urban areas, whereas this top red part is you can see this is the temperature breaching for heat wave threshold, and the least temperature we found was in woodland. So woodland was the most effective in reducing heat. Next slide, please. Now coming to second study, so from what we did in Guildford, taking that as a template or a learning experience to extend our study to a different climate, like a tropical climate, we planned a study in Ibirapuera Park. Why Ibirapuera Park? Is it's a kind of a living lab for studying another urban park in a different climate. Tropical cities need a different type of tailored solution because they have high humidity and all year round heat. And the aim of this study is to see the effect of an urban park in terms of temperature reduction, pollution reduction, noise reduction. So evaluate these parameters, spatio-temporal variation of an urban park here, Ibirapuera Park. And second goal was to actually see, because the park is filled with different types of tree species, as Leticia's presentation showed earlier. So the goal is to actually see the different tree cluster, how much these tree clusters are effective in reducing temperature and other parameter of interest. So what is the variation in different tree clusters? Next slide, please. With these two aims in the mind, we did and following the past methodology, we did two types of monitoring. First one is mobile monitoring, where in the figure a transect was made which passed from outside of the park, which starts at Museum de Arte M Mark, and it passed through the park. It goes to the center of the park and goes towards the urban area. The goal of this study is actually to see how much is the cooling in terms of extent. So we will see the temperature and how far it goes in terms of cooling. And second one in figure B, there are 9 locations. You can see these 9 locations are tree clusters. So we monitored the parameters: temperature, air temperature, wet bulb temperature, humidity, PM 2.5, carbon dioxide, noise, and wind speed, all these parameters in both studies, but here 5 minutes under each tree cluster. This figure B also has a transect. This transect is only to actually guide that the monitoring happens in a particular order, is so that we do not do a mixed kind of monitoring if we are doing at a particular time. So this monitoring we did in morning, afternoon, and evening. Next slide, please. So here is a brief snapshot of how we did recently from April 13th of April to 27th of April, where we did 2 types of study: transit and stationary. Transit is mobile monitoring, stationary is a fixed monitoring. Next slide, please. So we are still actually under the analysis, data analysis time. So, but I can show you, this is not a real result. I can show you what kind of result we are expecting. So here in this picture, you can see the park has some cooling, which will be shown like a different color. And we also did some thermal imagery. So thermal image camera, thermal camera data will give us the different microclimate in the park. So one of the result could be like which tree species or which tree cluster helps in reduction of PM 2.5 or temperature, which one is the best one, and how far this cooling or this air quality improvement happens if we are talking about parks. So up to what extent this urban park help in giving co-benefits. Next slide, please. So what is the implications from this my presentation today? So there are 2 pictures which I'm showing here today. Is first one is without any green. Second one, you can see a lot of trees. Of course, I would like myself to live in an area where there is more green. What would you guys want? As a city planner and from our research, we try to implicate and stress that there, first of all, there is a prioritized different tree diversity and different types of water features in park around, because it helps in like cooling and other benefits which we are discussing in today's presentation. Second is integrate a small scale NBS. If a street or a city does not have much scope of nature-based solution, then we can have like a pocket park or green wall. These are some of the solutions which we can have in a compact cities. Next slide, please. Take home message. First one, from the case studies, we found that the nature-based solutions cool our cities from 2 to 6 degrees Celsius, especially tree as a major player here. And when we combine different green and blue infrastructure together, they have even more impact than the individual nature-based solution. Tropical cities, as we talked about Sao Paulo city today, they need adaptive solutions based on, for example, Sao Paulo has big, tall buildings, so we need shade tolerant species or high humidity and high temperature tolerant species to have maximum benefit. And also Leticia mentioned some of the challenges we face from the tree species. So we have to consider what kind of challenges we have and how we can use nature in a different climate in different cities. Next slide, please. In the end, I would like to acknowledge the Green Cities and UGPN team who were behind this work, which I'm presenting today. First of all, Professor Prashant, who is the lead of UGPN funding and the lead of this activity. Then Brazilian colleagues, Professor Maria de Fatima, and Juliano. Juliano actually helped me and Leticia to identify those tree clusters in Ibirapuera Park. Leticia also helped to actually do the survey, initial survey, and find those tree clusters. Professor Marco helped in volunteering for this monitoring. Regina and Maria helped arrange the students for volunteering. UKCH colleagues, Professor Lawrence and team, they helped in formulating the methodology of this work, planning this out. And our experimental officer from GCARE, he helped in arranging all the equipments, transferring them to Brazil and do this monitoring. And University of Surrey and USP volunteer researchers. So Hila Khalili especially helping like equipment and other researchers, Akash, Hama, they are helping with the analysis of the data. And USP student Leslie, Hubens, Maria, Amanda, Edson, Caroline, George, Gustavo, Daniel, Anna, they all did a lot in terms of monitoring, especially Leslie says she did a lot of monitoring. Then I would also like to mention the funders. During my PhD, Operandum project funded this work, which was continued by Reclaim and Green Cities, currently UGPN Fund. Next slide, please. These are some of the snapshots which we see. First one, Marco, so helping with the monitoring. Then second picture is experimental officer, all the equipments, Leticia doing initial survey for tree cluster, Amanda on the bottom left, and then Maria and Gustavo. Huben said it is the best picture, hiding him, and then Leslie in the last picture. Next slide, please. These are the references for this work. First one is my study, which I presented for the Guildford one. Second one is Khalili's, Sohila Khalili's review, which is building a background or for her research. And third one is Urban Cooling review, which we published last year. Next slide, please. Thank you very much. In the end, if you have any questions, even after this presentation or have some suggestion, please contact Professor Prashant or myself, email ID given here. And also we have website surrey.ac.uk/GCARE. We also have our YouTube and Twitter. Please look for it if you want to reach out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeetendra, for really insightful presentation and presenting the two very distinct but very related case studies in Brazil and in UK. So I guess we can now open it up for the question and answer. Is anybody having any questions for our speakers today? So can you please put them in the chat box using the Q&A, the tab you have on your screen. But in the meantime, maybe I could just ask Leticia a question about the location actually where you have been doing this work. And what do you think actually? Let's say you carried out a case study, on this particular location. How portable it is to be applied to other, let's say to another other similar sort of location there, or what sort of differences you would expect, or what sort of challenges you would expect?
Do you mean like in different parks here or the?
Yeah, so I mean, the experimental work is usually limited to a location. I think it's a question for both of you, in fact. And we wanted to make it more generic, right? So that this could possibly be used, or the findings could be used. So my question really is that how generic these, these locations are, so that their findings could really be applied elsewhere. So they are not just specific to the particular location itself.
Yes, I think for answer that we need to evaluate more species and more locations. But for previous response, I think that can be applied as elsewhere. I mean, now that I am understanding the data, I'm looking for similar things made, and it's very difficult to find monitoring for trees in the cities. But I think we'll find similar results, yes. And in questions about apply this study to another for different phase, I think the only challenge is the resource, because there are expensive sensors, but it's very feasible with these are sensors that don't depend from the electricity, so they have their own battery and can be stand there. So this is something that facilitates the experiment. And also here in Brazil, Juliano is with a new project that expanded this, so we'll be able to evaluate more species and confirm if this is reliable.
Okay, good. And Jeet, what do you think about it?
I want to add to this, like based on both the case studies in Guildford and Sao Paulo. So Guildford is basically located in temperate zone, and Sao Paulo in tropical zone. So the result we will get is like in terms of cooling efficiency, in terms of spatial. And when we talk about Sao Paulo city has got lots of tall buildings all around, and which interspersed parks. So I have seen like Ibirapuera Park is one of the biggest one, but there are other parks which are interspersed between these buildings. So in Republica there is like a small park, and then all over the city like there are different sizes of the park. So once we have this kind of cooling extents, for example, let's park A has got this much area and it's related to the area how much cooling it does in what. So that can help in planning like how what would be the like a park of interspersed area, like for what distance there should be a park if we are planning another city, or if we are trying to incorporate another green infrastructure in the city. But this will be different in different climate. So the result will be helpful in tropical, will be different than the temperate one.
Okay, thank you. I think we got a question from Fatima. So we were asking people to write in Q&A, but since there are not a lot of people, so I think we can possibly give a floor to Fatima to ask the question directly.
You should be able to unmute yourself, Fatima. Yeah, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, you're on mute. I think you're still muted, Fatima. We can't hear you.
Yeah.
The microphone needs to be on, so I can see that there's a cross there. So it's there, but it's just muted.
Yeah, top right, you should be able to unmute it. No? Oh.
Do you mind then writing your question in the Q&A, the Q&A box or in the chat box? No? Okay, so
Afraid I can't.
We can't hear.
I can't unmute, unfortunately.
Anyway, in the meantime, is anyone else has got any questions?
Can I have a question for Jeet?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Did you think about do more of this monitoring? For example, I evaluated 2 parks. You were in Ibirapuera Park, and I'm thinking about now how to be like to extend that for the urban forest that I evaluated. Do you think that the most feasible way would be also like monitoring by walking or by cycling, because this area is like huge, and not only this urban forest, but like other areas? Do you think what would be the best way to capture this cooling?
Well, if the area is quite big, we can use e-bike, but the only problem when we do such like high speed thing is that the influence of wind also. So yes, we can get temperature values, but if you talk about thermal comfort, what is the thermal comfort at each location, at each point, that will not be right, because the wind speed will be quite interfered by our motion. So yes, only by temperature we can do, but if we want to do a large area, then this kind of monitoring can only be done by having many sensors, because then we have like instant same time temperature rather than moving. Or second thing, which is very different kind of study, is using remote sensing data, which is not air temperature, again it's like land surface temperature, and then converting that into temperature metric.
Well, thanks, that's interesting. Actually, now I'm thinking that dendrometers also have the temperature sensor, so, and are standard sensors for 2 years, so we can also use this data to compare this. Nice, thanks.
Okay, anyone else? Any questions? Fatima, did you manage to sort out your speaker? No? Okay. You can write your question in the Q&A box or in the chat box. You can't write either. Okay, no problem. So, I mean, I guess we could possibly ask one last question very quickly from both of you. What is one key take-home message, let's say, from your talks respectively? What is one thing you feel that this is something you find interesting and unexpected, which you wanted to share with the audience?
Well, from my side, I think that looks only into biodiversity aspect for resilience is not only the key. So we need to understand which traits may be conferring this resilience for trees, and investigate that and do more monitoring and understand more species.
Okay.
One message I would like to say is, because we have seen from the result that green infrastructure and blue infrastructure are helpful in reducing temperature, and we are going to suffer a lot of climate problems. So whatever is the feasibility in our urban cities, let's try to incorporate green infrastructure as much as possible. If there is no scope, then green walls. If there is scope, then try to plant trees and have pocket parks. So in whatever way we can have nature around us, that is good. So that will be like take home message recommendation from my side.
Perfect. Yeah. So thank you very much, everyone. And can we give a big round of applause to both our fantastic speakers today? So thank you for your enlightening talks, which were very complimentary and very well presented. So yeah, thank you very much, everyone. And if you wanted to, if you're not the member of the Reclaim Network Plus, so you could just join the network and you can get more information. And these webinars are all recorded and they will be put on the YouTube channel of the GCARE. So you're most welcome to to revisit them later on. Yeah, so thank you very much, everyone. Have a nice rest of the day. Bye then.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
See you
you.
around.
Bye bye.